This week I want to be very clear about something. I am not anti-money making online. I know it's incredible, isn't it? I'm creating this channel in the knowledge, of course, that it will lead to making money. But I'm not willing to make money at any cost, and certainly not at the cost of alignment. So over the past 5 years, I've spent a significant amount of money myself trying to identify effective ways to generate income online. I worked with different people, different systems, different promises. And at one point, someone who shall remain nameless suggested something very specific. Their advice was simple. Pick a number you can prove, Howard. Promise them relief from pain and remove any friction. So I created a headline very much like this: how to make 5 to 10,000 a month without bending yourself out of shape. I worked with a copywriter. I built a huge sales page. I recorded a series of charming, urbane sales videos. I wrote a series of emails pre-launch, during the launch, after the launch, and I built out an entire course. It was a total of 85 videos. Then, after all that preparation, I launched it to my email list, and at the time I had somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 subscribers. I got precisely 0 sales. At first, frankly, I found it very difficult to accept, and I spent a ton of time with that copywriter, changing the headline, changing the copy, changing the photos, putting in GIFs, putting in memes, putting in this, taking out that, putting in this, taking out that. I don't know if you have ever been in that position, but it's like trying to shoot a rabbit in the dark. It becomes an impossible guessing game. So in the end, I just had to simply stop that activity and go deeper. And that's what this video is about. Now, that forced me to zoom out and ask a question that I simply couldn't ignore. Why? It wasn't that people didn't want help. It wasn't that money didn't matter to them. No, the problem was something else. The first conclusion that I had to come to is that the formulas that I was following were in effect cliches. And when someone sounds like everyone else, well, there's no pressing appeal, there's just a judgment on the price. There's no real signal, there's no real edge, there was no real me. What I realized is this: the formula didn't fail because it was wrong, it failed precisely because it was generic. The other question I asked myself is, why do these formulas exist in the first place? And here's the thing. If I come online and I fight and I battle as I have done, and I find success as I have done, it would be very easy for me to come up with a formula. Just do X, do Y, and do Z, and then you too will have the same success as I've had. However, that misses out a whole host of factors that cannot be pushed inside a formula. Who is that message going out to? Who is it that's in your world who will respond to that message? Who are you? And what do you bring to the party? No formula can cover that, because there's not a formula to our individuality itself. There's no way that we can package up humanity and make a die-cast model that everybody can follow in order to generate business. If generating business was so incredibly easy as to be able to put into a formula, then not the vast majority of entrepreneurs wouldn't fail in the first 5 years of their business. No. It's a more subtle, more nuanced, more important question than the questions of formulas. There was another very important lesson in that failed launch. I've had a few, as you can see. One of the really important lessons was that the amount of work that we put into something does not necessarily translate to a significant result. Just because I made 85 videos, I felt that that in itself had tremendous value. Now, it is true that those videos do indeed have tremendous value, but if I focus on working hard and putting up a formula, people are not necessarily ever going to believe in the value of those videos simply because I'm presenting them in a way that other people present their 85 videos. And so people say, well, he's got 85 videos, well, I could watch 85 YouTube videos. What's the difference? Now, for people with years or decades of lived experience, generic language is just not effective. In effect, actually, it's alienating because it forces us to speak below our intelligence level. It asks us to ignore our real complexity and all the things that clients are dealing with, and that is not a marketing problem, that is an integrity problem. Now, there are many people who pay lip service to integrity. Even the formula people, as it were, are saying, well, you need to adapt this into your language and you need to take this structure and put it in a way that your people will recognize. However, the very fact that the structural basis is generic does not allow for individualism. It doesn't allow for the quirkiness. It doesn't allow for the character. It doesn't allow for the color. It doesn't allow for all the nuances and subtleties that somebody like me in my mid-60s is able to bring to my communication. And without that layering so that people can really connect on a profound level, we cannot build a profound business. So as I mulled over this problem, I started to understand something important. Strategies don't necessarily transfer cleanly across lanes, and what worked for a marketing expert in their world won't automatically work in my world. What works in direct mail doesn't magically work when you cut and paste it into an online context. No, context matters. People matter. You matter. And so, 5 years on, this is where I take a very clear position. We do not find our way forward by copying. No, we invent, we configure, we reconfigure, we take risks, we answer problems our clients actually have in the real world with true sensibility, with intelligence. We don't let anyone tell us, look, there's only one way to do this. Because as mature individuals who have lived and danced and loved and suffered and cogitated upon the problems and complexities of our own character and our own world and know how human beings work in general, we are able to bring to this online world a richness, a complexity, and a calmness that generates income in ways that are very different from generating formulas. So I stopped entirely this business of chasing winning formulas, and instead I started to work at a deeper level, on an individual level and in full alignment. And my online life changed, not overnight, but it changed steadily. It changed strategically, and it changed sustainably, because my communication that I was making was no different in my marketing copy from how I am here with you today and from how I am when I'm with my clients. I don't need to put on a big front. I don't need to express these hyperbolic promises in order to draw people to me who resonate with this whole idea of bringing our individuality to the market. So if you're like me and you're serious about making money online, but you're seriously unwilling to sound like everyone else, then the work in this channel I'm doing may be for you. Not because it's easier, not because it's some promise of do this with this benefit and without this pain, but simply because it's truer.